Hi friends, in our time together today, I'm introducing Leaving Uist, also referred to often as Farewell to Uist. This is the tune that Jonathan Shagog played at the end of the video where I was introducing him and we had such a great conversation together. And I loved the tune so much I thought, we've got to learn that together because it's a delight to play. Now, the tune is listed as a waltz on the session website, but that is because of the time signature of the tune, not the manner in which the tune is played. And we'll talk about that. But you can play this a little slowly or fast. Most people play it moderate to faster. And so we'll follow our usual process. I'll stand and walk us through the tune, like one phrase at a time without any ornamentation, so that you can actually really get it into your brain. And then I'll play through the tune once in the play along with Scott section. And when I play through the tune, I again won't play with ornamentation, and I won't do the repeats. I'll just play through it once so that you get a real flavor. And I've got chapters to the video so that you can bounce back and forth and come back to that as often as you want. We'll then talk about any potential trouble spots I think you'll experience, some ornamentation, and I'll share some ornamentation and expression ideas. And a lot of my ornamentation and expression ideas at this phase of introducing a tune are to talk about it some and to recommend you get to know the tune really well, learn the core, and listen to a lot of folks. And then a couple of days, I share a practice session where I have fun learning to ornament and express, but we will talk about some ideas with that as well. And then I'll then share the history of the tune. And I am adding a link, as I like to do, to the top of the notes to this video, to the page on my website, from which you could download the music and tabs for this delightful, delightful tune. Now, I said Jonathan introduced me to the tune, and when he did, he sent me a transcription and a couple of video links to some of his favorite versions, and I love them. So what I'm going to do also in the notes to the video is I'm going to put a link to one of the ones that Jonathan introduced me to, the tune Michael McGoldrick, John McCusker, and John Doyle were playing together. I'll also put a link to a video with Fred Morrison playing it, because Fred composed the tune and he introduced it. Now, for me, I'm pretty committed to only introducing tunes that exist in the public domain. This one's a bit of a gray area, but it appears to me, from everything I can tell, that Fred Morrison has permitted this tune to exist as a folk tune. And I appreciate, Fred, thank you, from everything I could tell. So the transcription I'm providing is actually really close to the way Fred introduced the tune on the album when it first came out. So anyway, that's what the transcription will look like. Now, again, as with everything else, you look at the session website, for a tune this young, there are so many transcriptions, and you'll find tons out there. So learn the core, the original core of the tune, listen to tons of folks, and then play it like you want. So let me walk through the tune. This is the core of the tune, and one phrase at a time. So that's the whole tune. Now, in the Play Along with Scott section, I'm going to play through the tune at a moderate pace without ornamentation. Well, I was going to say without ornamentation, but I will use some tonguing to differentiate between the notes, and that's an ornament. Anyway, Leaving Uist, Play Along with Scott section. All right, that's the whole tune. Well, that's what you then repeat. And when Fred Morrison plays it, he repeats it just a little differently, and I'll share that in a minute. Now let's think through potential difficulties we're going to experience learning this tune. And I think I demonstrated some of them in that little walkthrough. You spend a lot of time in the second octave. And we play, and I'm introducing this with a low D. This is the Burke Brass Viper low D, and I'll put a link in the notes to the video as to where you could pick one up if you want. I love it, but then you hear me often say, I love it, about different whistles, because there are so many good whistles out today. I absolutely love it, and I love it. So, some of the challenges are that second octave, and you are going to have to get into the flow. So the reason I do the Play Along with Scott section and that walkthrough is so that, and the chapters, is so that you could go back and do it again and again and again, because it's important to listen, to let it sink into your blood. And like I said a little earlier, listen to the tune and the way a number of people play it, and then play your version, because it's a folk tune. So, when you're getting into that first section's pretty up to that double strong second octave A is pretty straightforward. You do have to go into the second octave to the A some. So work on your second octave. But then when you get into that second bit, you do have some second octave challenges. You're going to have to spend that line there. It's A, B, B, A, G, E. You're going to have to run through. Another challenge I found was that phrase I just played, that I ran a number of times to get my fingers accustomed to it. So as I was going through that, I noticed there's a lilt to that phrase, and the lilt in the phrase helped me learn to play it. So run that until your fingers are accustomed to it. And you may have noticed there that I added just a bit of a lilt. Or you could do it straight if you like. Well, and thinking about that, let's jump into ornamentation and expression. So One of the beauties of a tune like this is the subtle variation you can add. And when Fred Morrison plays it, like the first time through, he plays it just as I did. And in the second time through, he adds a few different, just slight subtle differences. For example, the tune starts on the first time through, and the second time through he plays. And there are a number of things like that where he just uses a slightly different note on the second time through. And I've marked those, but they're not significant enough for you to worry about. Listen to the way Fred plays it and just get a feel for that. And thinking about ornamentation and expression as well, Fred Morrison, the composer, is a piper. And so when he plays it, you're going to hear a lot of... sorry. So you're going to get a lot more combined ornaments, you know, some runs, some rolls, double cuts, double taps and stuff. So get a feel for that. And I've also noticed that a number of people are throwing in some fun slides when you're going up. Let's see. In that second bit. So, you know, that's kind of fun. Accentuating some movement, you're creating a movement feel in transitions between phrasings is what that does. Now, there are some versions, particularly the other one I'm going to put the link to in the notes, where there's where you'll notice a lot of vibrato on some of the held notes, and I think that's great too. So I'm experimenting with that as well. So remember, in a couple of days, I'm gonna jump in and share some of my take on this. The other version you'll listen to, most of the held notes are going to get some good vibrato. So what you're doing, before we transition to the history of it, what you're doing with ornamentation here is the quick ornaments, like you're starting off, it's more of a triplet. You're getting, the tune moves beautifully, gracefully, and quickly, but not fast. With the ornamentation, you're highlighting, like with the rolls or a cut, you're highlighting specific notes and jumps. With a slide, you're creating a movement feel. With vibrato, you're creating a thoughtful pause feel. But none of them are held real long. So listen to the other recordings and play with it, because it's great. Again, you're just gonna love playing this tune. Let's jump into the history. So jumping into the history, North and South Uist are on the northwest of Scotland, and I guess a pointer on the map is in order. Okay, and let's zoom in. The fun things you could do with technology. So, Fred Morrison's father was from Uist, and South Uist actually, although Fred was raised in Glasgow, which is where they lived, and he was celebrating his father's heritage in composing this tune. I love that. Isn't that sweet? That's a great thing. You see, if we're a little Irish focused, we're thinking about a number of situations in Ireland that caused emigration to different parts of the globe. And many of us, myself included, trace a lot of our ancestry back to parts of Ireland where folks left to seek opportunities somewhere else. So the same thing was happening in other parts of what was called the British Empire at that time. And so up in Scotland, right after the Battle of Culloden, and one of the goals of the Battle of Culloden was to dismantle the clan oversight structure that really helped protect a lot of the people. Well, I won't get into the clan structure because I don't know enough about it. But what happened then was a lot of people were losing land. Their farms were being sucked into given to other people, and so some people left. And then later in the 18th century, a couple volcanoes erupted in Iceland, raining black ash in places like northern Scotland, and a couple of hard winters as a result, a couple of failed crop sessions, and more people started emigrating. Then, in the 19th century, people on their own land didn't own their own land anymore. Rents were being increased, and all their farms by now had been sucked up into larger farms, and they had these overseers who were charging them escalated rent. And so a number of people then emigrated, particularly to Canada, the US, and Australia. And so the population of the Western Islands was devastated, and a lot of the stories are out of people leaving Uist at the time. There was even a Highlands Highlands and Islands Immigration Society that was designed to give loans to people so that they could emigrate and seek a better life out of the place. It was that bad for them. And so a large wave of folks in the 1920s were leaving the islands. And so that is Morrison's heritage, and that's his father's heritage. And his father was still on Uist when he was born and raised, and then the family was in Glasgow later. And it's this that Morrison is celebrating, the leaving of Uist and his father's heritage, his heritage. And so he wanted to write a song about it. I think that's awesome. Thank you, sir, for writing this beautiful tune. I hope you have the most delightful time learning Leaving Uist, and spend some good time making it your own. And as I said, in a couple of days, I'll share my version of the tune and how I'm working on it on a low and a high D whistle. I hope this is helpful. If so, please like the video. It helps YouTube know that more folks should see our community. If you're brand new and checking us out because of the tune, please subscribe and join this amazing community of folks we have learning to whistle together, focused on the low whistle, but all kinds of other whistles too. Until next time, my friends, this is Scott Shade. Happy whistling.